Hello everybody, how are you today? I hope you are doing great. And you're probably wondering why I'm out over here at these warehouses. Well, this is where you're gonna find some of the finest artists in Miami. So, today I have the pleasure of interviewing Tony Mendoza. If you wanna know more about this, just stick around. The big YouTubers, they have people to carry their equipment. I don't. So I'm carrying my own equipment and I am on my way. Now Tony does not know at what time I'm arriving. So let's see if he's ready for us. And let's see. Let's put my stuff down. I'm not at the door. I need people. I need people to help me. Surprise! Surprise! You're on my channel!
Hey!
Hi!
Welcome! Come on in!
Okay. So I don't have people to carry my stuff. So we have arrived. Oh, now I have people. Now I have people. Say hi.
Hi!
And a little more.
My name is Mano. Welcome to Mano Fine Art and Tony Mendoza studio in the back. And this is us. Welcome to the Bird Road Art District.
Yes, that's right. And they have events here at Bird Road. They have events.
We do. And this is not a gallery. It's my studio and Tony Mendoza's studio. So it's not a pretty gallery. The floor is cracked. It's an ugly warehouse.
No, that's not true. None of that is true. He's
But
like
it's
lying.
got character.
He's
Come and see
lying
it.
so much. This place is beautiful. So Tony knows that I'm coming, but he didn't get the door. Okay,
That's right.
Mr. Mano got the door. Why? Because Tony's talking. Tony's talking.
I didn't know you were here.
This is the famous Tony Mendoza.
Oh yeah. How are you? Good to see you. You look great.
Talking about Pampers. That's what he's talking about. I'm here to interview
They were
him,
used to.
and he's talking about Pampers.
And I'm sure they're old. I'm sure all they're using.
Well, he talks about Pampers.
We're talking about the situation in Venezuela because in Miami we're always going to talk about either Venezuela or Cuba or something that has to do with politics or dictatorships or whatever is bothering us.
Okay, that's so true. Can you show us around your studio for a minute, and then we'll talk about the politics in Miami, because Miami is about politics all the time. Okay.
This is where the magic happens. My little cubby hole.
So I'm just gonna like show a little bit around, and then, oh, I love this. This is so cute.
Isn't that cool?
This is so cute. Look at that. And then we're gonna sit down and I'm gonna interview. This is where the magic happens, right? How long have you been here?
About 3, almost 4 years already.
This is where the magic
I love this space.
Okay.
And I love this neighborhood. It's the Bird Road Art District. We're surrounded by artists. Next door there's a theater company. The other side there's jewelers. Across the street we have gyms, we have art schools, we have other artists.
You go to the gym?
No. Does it look like I go to the gym?
Most of Tony's work has to do with the Cuban culture or living in Miami when we were young. So for example, we have a saying in Spanish, ese huevo quiere sal, which is translated into that egg wants salt. And that means that somebody wants something, so maybe they're like hanging around or being nice. It's because they have an ulterior motive. So what he did is that he translated that saying into this artwork. So I think it's just wonderful. Now you know that I love my coffee and my espresso, and I spoke to you about a cortadito. Well, this is the visual translation of the cortadito, which means a little cut one. So there we go. And now I'm going to show you one more. that has to do with our culture and our history in Miami. We're always very familiar with Johnstone Crab. They've been there forever, and that is an iconic location in Miami. So if you grew up in Miami, you're familiar with Johnstone Crab.
I started drawing before I can have any memory. I've been drawing all my life. Since I was a little kid, I would draw on paper bags, I would draw on envelopes, I would draw on anything that I could find. And my mom, when we were very young, and we lived up in New York and New Jersey, where I was born in New York, and my parents were from Cuba, and my mom would sit down with us and draw Cuban things, like bohío, which is the thatched hut, where my family grew up in Cuba, and the farmer woman feeding the chickens, and the guajiro coming home, and the ponciana tree and the palm trees, all these things which of course we didn't have in Union City, New Jersey. And I was fascinated by that. I think that's where the start was. My mother was a seamstress, so I think I inherited that, which is artistic also. I think I inherited that from her, that sensibility from her. But I've been drawing all my life, as long as I can remember. I studied commercial art at Miami-Dade College. Commercial art because I was the son of working class immigrants, and the idea of being an artist was outlandish to them and to me. For many years, even though I drew and painted all my life as a hobby, I worked in transportation and in other businesses. And maybe 20 years ago, approximately, the company I worked for ceased to exist, and I started experimenting with painting and drawing as a way of making a living, as a way of feeding my family, or helping to feed my family. And I was a frustrated architect. I loved architecture, so I started a series of paintings of houses in Little Havana, which is the neighborhood I grew up in Miami. When we came down from New Jersey, we grew up in Little Havana. And that led to being involved in the Little Havana art scene, and then started to interpret the businesses in Little Havana, the people you would see in Little Havana, the way they dressed, the way they talked, the way they danced, their music. And then that led to jokes, visually interpreting jokes, sayings, stories, customs. I found a myriad of inspiration in the life of my family, of my friends, and of the fellow citizens of this unique city of Miami, especially the hyphenated culture, that mixture of Cuban and American, but also of just Latin culture and American culture, because they influence each other, they balance each other out, and I try to balance that in my art. It's people, especially people who grew up in Miami, even though they live or Miami or New York or Los Angeles, that Cuban American, they really relate to my art, because I think I'm combining both feelings in my painting. In the summer, we had the invasion of the Cubans from New York and New Jersey and Chicago and up north, and because these hotels were half empty in the summer, the tradition was that people would come down here in the winter, not so much in the summer. So they were economical. They had kitchenettes where where Cubans would put pressure cookers and make rice and beans, and we'd spend, invite all their brothers from Hialeah and Little Havana and Westchester out to the beach, and it became this parade of Cubans up and down, mixed with the older Jewish retirees, and it was just a unique experience, a unique time, which of course no longer exists. Miami Beach is a different. Now it's South Beach, and it's just a different world. But we grew up with that. It was La Playa Los Viejos, the old people's beach, and that's the beach my mom would take us to. In the summer, we'd spend. That was the cheapest way to spend the summer. Every day we'd drive to the beach with a towel and a thermos of iced tea and some crackers and ham, and that's how she would entertain us at the beach there on South Beach.
For me, it represents part of my history as where my heritage, where I come from. I was born in the United States, but with Cuban roots, and all the Cuban sayings, it ties in my family experience culturally, and mixing the Cuban into the American, and it has a lot of meaning because these are all the things I heard growing up, and I could relate to almost every one of his paintings in my own personal way.
I think the people, because there's several markets, and market meaning people that view, like my art, purchase my art. There are the people who are like me, who grew up in this culture, so they have a deeper understanding of what I'm painting, and so they relate to it in that way. It's something personal. But there's color, there's character, there's line, there's nostalgia for just Miami in general. So people who either visited Miami, grew up in Miami, have some kind of connection to Miami, they relate to it. And a lot of people like the story. They see the painting, they're intrigued by it, then they ask me the story behind the painting, and they're further intrigued, and they feel a connection to me, and they purchase the art, or they enjoy the art, or they buy it for somebody else. Because art, in the same way that I can appreciate a Chinese drawing or a Chinese painting and that technique, and I'm not Chinese, the same way they can relate to what I'm doing.
So talk to us a little bit about your symbolic art or your expressive art.
Okay, here we go. This is called Santera y Monja, or Monja y Santera, nun and Santera. Santeras is the Afro-Cuban religion, which mixes the Yoruba practices along with Catholicism. It was used by the slaves that were brought to Cuba, where they would practice their Yoruba religion from Africa, but hiding their gods behind Catholic saints so that they wouldn't be found out or punished. And so here is just a representation of that clash of cultures, or unification of cultures, showing a Catholic nun and a Santera dressed in white, the practitioner of the Yoruba religion. This is Calle 8, Southwest 8th Street, between 15th and 16th Avenue. Calle 8, or Southwest 8th Street, is the heart of Little Havana, the traditional Cuban area of Miami. And in this painting, which was commissioned, in fact, by the gentleman here, who was a cop who walked that beat for many years, he's now retired, shows some of the landmarks, the Domino Park, which is famous. The old men play dominoes there day and night. And just some characters, as you would see, including the cigar store Indian there, and people drinking coffee. This is this piece was called Midnight Cafecitos. And Midnight Cafecitos are taking place at one of the most iconic, and not the most iconic, Cuban restaurant in Miami, in Little Havana, called the Versailles, El Versailles. I'm not sure why a Cuban restaurant has a French name, but nobody seems to mind. And it's well known for being open late at night, and people on the way to the clubs, on the way back from the clubs, after a party, after a funeral, for whatever reason, they'll stop there at the famous coffee window and have some Cuban coffee, and cortadito, a café con leche, some variation of that, and maybe a pastry. And this is also a hot point for celebrations when anything happens in Cuba or the United States. And it's a big political area where people argue and discuss and sometimes come to blows concerning politics. The Versailles on Southwest 8th Street.
And where all the presidents go to do
That's
politics.
right. They go to get votes.
Yeah.
This is the classic Guayabera shirt, which is the Cuban dress-up shirt, or it's also called the Mexican wedding shirt, because there's the legend is either they started in Cuba, in Santo Espiritu, a city in the interior of the island, or in Veracruz, Mexico. We, of course, being Cubans, believe it was in Cuba. And the shirt literally, the name literally means something, a shirt to carry guavas in. And the legend says that they were invented by farmers, a mini pocketed shirt, to go pick up guavas. So the shirt guayabera means guava shirt or something to do with guavas. But now I thought it'd be funny to interpret it in that way, modern looking guayabera with guavas in the pockets and guavas hanging from here. And it's now used, it's proper attire in Miami, a nice linen long sleeve guayabera for a funeral or a wedding or a Miami chic dinner or gathering. This is the guayabera. This was a triptych or 3 paintings that I painted celebrating the architecture of South Beach, which I love, the Art Deco architecture. I participated many times in Art Deco Weekend, which is a big celebration of Art Deco architecture and life on Miami Beach. And I gave it a little bit of a Latin twist there with the gentleman playing the conga drum and the lady doing her merengue. And these are 3 of the, what I think are iconic, classic Art Deco buildings. As you can see, they're all symmetrical, and the painting is symmetrical, and everything was done symmetrically. We have 2 couples, 2 couples, 2 couples, and to incorporate them and celebrate something unique from Miami in both the culture and architecture. This is one of the most favorite pieces that I've done, and it's actually, as you can see, black and white. It's line drawing. If you've noticed in my work, the line is prevalent. I'm all about the lines, and then everything else comes afterwards. So this was just a pure line drawing. It was done as an illustration for a book about Cubans in Miami. And this is the Orange Bowl, which was of course, the home of the Miami Dolphins and the Miami Hurricanes for many years. And it was in the heart of Little Havana, not far from where I grew up. In fact, I could see it from my bedroom window. And it was a centerpiece. It was old and rusted and rougher on the edges, but we loved the Orange Bowl. And it's surrounded by a neighborhood of bungalows and old Spanish, old mission houses, little apartment buildings full of old Cuban abuelas who would sit in the front yards and sell you parking spaces for the games, because there was hardly any parking at the Orange Bowl. And it's a nice memory, and it's still a neighborhood that's full of character. There's a lot of character in that area, and I wanted to express that jumble of architecture and balconies and laundry hanging along with the iconic Orange Bowl. And of course up there you have the Goodyear blimp, which used to float over my house continuously during the season. This is an early piece, and one of the pieces that reflect growing up in Little Havana, or the customs of Little Havana, and it's called Good Friday, Viernes Santo in Spanish. And that was like the holiest day, the most mournful day of the year for us when we were young. It's not so respected as it used to be. And tradition was that my mom or people would make bacalao or codfish, because we were not supposed to eat meat that day. We weren't supposed to play or listen to music or watch TV, so my sister and myself are there bored to death. Then you have the ladies, the older ladies, going off to mass. It was a day of obligation, so they're interpreted there with a red umbrella, which I thought was funny, because when I was young, older ladies were usually dressed in black or white. They were usually widows, and they would probably be in mourning the rest of their life, which was the custom. And of course there were mantillas, the lace on their heads to go to mass. And I like the touch of the red umbrella, which I do in a lot of my paintings, because it just adds that, it's kind of like whimsical, where they're dressed so seriously but they have a red umbrella. That was not unusual, or a flower umbrella. And it's windy, because in that Lent, we have the Lenten winds in Cuba and in Miami, where it becomes suddenly very windy for some reason. People have religious interpretations of that. It's just the weather, in my opinion. But this was a very special day. It is not respected anymore, but there was something about having a day where you reflected and mourned the death of Jesus. And I kind of miss that austerity for at least just that one day.
Tony, what do you want people to leave when they watch your work, when they experience your work? What do you want to stay behind in their heart?
Well, first of all, I want them to be happy, because most of my work is positive and whimsical, and it's meant to make you smile, it's meant to make you laugh. There's enough misery in the world without me contributing to it. And I want them to appreciate the diversity that we have in this country, and how every community, every city, every town has a unique, hyphenated culture, a unique mixture of people. And mine just happens to be Miami, and the mixture of the Latino or Cuban culture with the American culture. And it adds spice, it adds wonder to life, and I hope that's what they take away from my artwork.
I am so glad that I finally did this long-awaited video. I have the honor to be able to do this video with Tony Mendoza, and this art is, like he said, not only for people that are local, but for people all over the United States and the world. And if you want to take a look at some of his artwork, go on to his website, TonyMendozaArt.com. I'm going to put all of the information below, so check it out. And I hope that you like this video. Please like and subscribe. But more important than all of that, I hope that you have a day filled with peace, love, and joy. Bye-bye.